It's cold outside. Welcome to Just Breathe with a live fire. I wanted to bring our Just Breathe practice into the analogy of the fire burning. Now, in Sanskrit tradition, the fire is often referred to as the Agni fire, the digestive fire that helps us not just digest our food, but also digest the stories, our lived experience, our traumas, and our victories and celebrations. But there's also a component of the Sanskrit language that uses tapas to refer to how we stoke the fire. And that just means, how do we keep the air circulating? Well, that's what Just Breathe is, right? So keeping that air circulating around the fuel, which in this case is the wood, and in our case really is the fodder, the relationships that make up our day. Prana feeds both. Without prana and without components, ingredients, there is no fire. There is no reason to heat up. So go ahead and find yourself a comfortable position. Because of the visual today, I would encourage you to consider, do you want to gaze at the fire or do you want to close your eyes? Right? The trataka, or the gazing practice, can be a meditative way to stay in that inspirational flow, that intuitive, unpredictable energy of the fire. So if that's of interest, go ahead and set yourself up to gaze upon the fire. You might even imagine the heat of the fire, feeling that warmth. As you steady and slow down your breathing. And one of the techniques that is useful in starting a fire is to focus some concentrated breath into the spark location. And it can be done as simply as, so we're going to bring that into our breath practice. So imagine that you're feeding oxygen. There's remnants of oxygen even in our exhale. That's why it works, right? But it's also correlated to the systems of our body preparing our digestive fire to receive a meal. And what that means is we actually start to digest our food first from our olfactory senses. It's one of the reasons why we don't digest so well when we take out food, right? Meaning we drive through, pick it up, take it home, because we're not involved in that initial phase of the olfactory. So we're going to bring in that. Watch the fire stoke in your mind's eye. Your inner fire, your physical fire. Watch how this focus on the exhale might start to activate your abdominal muscles. You might even feel a lifting in your pelvic floor, the precursor to Agni Sara, or as I like to call it, the Dharma breath of engaging my core to feed the fire of my Dharma, the fire of my life's work. Let's take about 8 or 10 more of these. Release that concentrated blowing breath. Come back to an even samavriti. Good. All right, we're switching again now to a slow, steady expansion of the ribs, like a Bastrika breath, but expanding through the ribs as if the bellows, which is the namesake of this breath, concentrating that breath into the belly of the diaphragm. Ideally, this breath is in and out through the nose, even on the inhale with the exhale. Good. Release. Come back to the easy breath, your natural breath, or the samavriti breath for a minute. What do you notice? What do you feel? We're coming back off the edge of effort. Again, off of that high point of heat and push, instead recalibrating. We're going to do that one more time, that Bastrika breath, one more time. Just another 4 or 5 easy breaths. Let go of any tension that may have gotten stuck or built up over that practice. And when you're ready, begin again. Inhale, exhale. And each cycle is about 5 to 6 seconds. Now, if you're digesting something challenging, something difficult, stay with this slow, concentrated, deliberate breath. If you're perhaps digesting normal every day, or perhaps you're feeling a little more vibrant, after a couple of breaths to reset, you might opt to pick up the pace, almost as if we're feeding a log to the fire to increase that fire's potential to burn, to cultivate heat. So if that sounds attractive to your pranic body, to your inner wisdom, then again, maybe 8 to a dozen, increase the pace or increase the volume or increase the effort for Bhastrika breath, tickling that edge. Alrighty, after about 6 or 7, I'm starting to feel that buzz. I'm starting to feel a little bit of almost a dizziness. Cease that Bhastrika as you need to. Take a breath to recalibrate. And let go of the effort. Give yourself some time in your space to bring down the heat of this practice. Slow and steady. Maybe even welcoming in a sounding breath if that feels good. Just as our belly and our digestive system needs rest, so too does our mind and our muscles. How long does it take for you to recalibrate into ease? And if there is resistance to that parasympathetic nervous system, close the eyes and shift the eyeballs to the left side without moving the head and hold them there for another 10 breaths. This is kind of a hijacking to help shift the nervous system into the parasympathetic. You might feel a spontaneous desire to yawn. You might hear a gurgling in your belly. You might feel a relaxation in the tissues of the jaw, the shoulders, the chest, the buttocks. You've engaged the eyeballs and you've noticed something shift, then release. Don't worry if it doesn't create an obvious shift. Even an impromptu desire to wiggle a muscle that is typically still can be indication of that deeper parasympathetic connection. Rest the eyes. Take a couple of cleansing, easy breaths. The eyes are closed. Perhaps you open them to gaze once again at the fire that you have helped to nourish through your practice. The fire of transformation, the fire of purification, the fire of tapas. The hands come to rest together. Feel the power of your breath, the link between body and mind. May you breathe deeply, move freely, May you labor lovingly. May you live vibrantly, joyously. May you be well. Namaste. Thank you so much for pausing to breathe with me today. Any questions, comments, clarifications, or observations from your practice?
Yeah. The fire at first made me feel angry. And I'm not quite sure why, but I ended up closing my eyes instead. I think part of it is that it's not like a candle flame, which is always sprouting from the same wick. It's kind of jumping around. It's here, it's there. It's not steady.
Yeah.
In this second offering to stare into the fire, I picked the coal at the bottom that's just glowing red because it's not moving away from that spot. And it didn't have the same effect.
Yeah. Now, what that means, maybe nothing, right? It might just be the challenge of working in a virtual setting is that the image itself is flickering, right? So that's exhausting on the eyes. But it is also the flickering of the fire itself, that unpredictability. But it's important to notice just what you notice, because there may be a deeper indication that you're on an edge, right? Emotionally, in which case something that you can't control is like that push that takes you over the edge. So noticing the edge is even more important than tickling the edge, right? Noticing the edge and then choosing wisely. This is the real work of tapas, is knowing wise application of what we know. Well, to know something, we have to first notice it. And to understand it to a deeper knowing, we have to wrestle with it. We have to digest it. Hence the transformational power of tapas, of Agni fire, of discipline and doing our practice. So perhaps today is a day to not tickle your edge. If that was a trigger to anger, not that anger is bad, but anger is often unclear. So can you cultivate clarity in order to address the fire that is often associated with anger without it having to cause an eruption, a burning of sorts? Yeah? How's that land?
Pretty well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my right side is hot, very, very hot. My left side, just right? Sometimes that imbalance itself can teach us something as well, right? Just noticing our habits, noticing where we might be routinely doing something. My dishwasher's to the left of my sink. Well, ironically, looking out the left side, the driver's side here in the States, to turn and rotate. I have more movement to my left side than I do to my right side. How does that show up in your practice of living? Do you notice where there may be extra heat, extra work, extra patterning that might in itself create an imbalance? But whatever you do, just breathe and let it unwind. Fair enough? Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you again soon.